What if your secret love for a man cost you the biggest contract of your life? That question slammed into me the moment my boss slid the rejection letter across the polished oak desk like it was nothing more than yesterday's mail. I sat there in the corner office on the 42nd floor of a Manhattan tower, the city skyline glittering behind him like it was mocking me. Samuel Thompson, 31, top associate at Caldwell and Pierce, the firm everyone dreamed of making partner at. My hands stayed steady on the armrests, but inside everything cracked open. The letter was short, clinical. After careful review, we regret to inform you that the lead role on the Harrington merger has been reassigned. Client preference for a different profile. Client preference. Code for the whispered rumor that had somehow reached the conservative old money Harrington family. Samuel Thompson was not the straight-laced family man they wanted fronting their billion-dollar deal. Someone had outed me. Not in a headline, not with a photo, but in the quiet way that matters in these circles. A late-night text from Josiah to my work phone that I had left open on the conference table. A single heart emoji followed by, "Can't wait to see you tonight." Enough for the wrong eyes. I had built everything on hiding. Law school at Columbia, summer associateships, 80-hour weeks, the right suits, the right golf clubs, the right jokes at happy hour. No one knew about Josiah, the quiet high school English teacher from Brooklyn who made me laugh until my ribs hurt, and who kissed me like the world was ending every single time. We had been together 2 years, careful, private, our little apartment in Williamsburg with the creaky floors and the view of the bridge. I told myself it was temporary, that once I made partner I could breathe. Now the contract I had spent 6 months drafting, the one that would have been my ticket to 7 figures and a corner office of my own, was gone. My boss, Richard Caldwell himself, leaned back and sighed like he was doing me a favor. "Sam, you're good. Damn good. But the client wants traditional. Family values. You understand." I understood perfectly. I understood that my love for Josiah had just become a liability worth millions. I stood up, thanked him for his time, and walked out before the rage or the tears could show. The elevator ride down felt like falling through every version of myself I had tried to be. That night, I sat on our couch with Josiah's head in my lap, his dark curls between my fingers. He listened without interrupting while I told him everything. His brown eyes filled, but he didn't cry. "We'll figure it out," he said, voice steady the way only teachers can be. But I saw the fear there too. Fear that my career was about to drag him into the spotlight he never asked for. I held him tighter, the city lights flickering through the blinds, and for the first time I wondered if loving him openly would mean losing everything else. The next morning, I typed my resignation before the sun came up. No severance negotiation, no counteroffer. Just a clean break. I emailed it from the kitchen table while Josiah made coffee. He set the mug down beside me and kissed the top of my head. "Proud of you," he whispered. I wasn't proud yet. I was terrified. But the rejection had cracked the door open to something I had never let myself imagine. A life where I didn't have to choose between the man I loved and the career I had killed myself for. The first month after I left Caldwell and Pierce was a blur of ramen noodles and panic attacks at 3 a.m. I sublet a tiny office above a bodega in Flatbush, hung a cheap sign that read Samuel Thompson, attorney at law, and waited for the phone to ring. It didn't. My savings drained faster than I expected. Josiah kept teaching, kept paying half the rent, kept telling me I was doing the right thing. But I saw the way he checked our bank app when he thought I wasn't looking. The guilt sat on my chest like a stone. Then came the first real case. A pro bono referral from a friend of a friend. A gay couple fighting for custody of their foster daughter against a homophobic biological grandmother. The courtroom was small, the judge skeptical, but I poured every ounce of the anger I still carried into those arguments. I won. The local LGBTQ center posted about it on Instagram. Suddenly my inbox had 3 new consults. Small at first, a discrimination suit against a landlord, a same-sex marriage license snag, a trans teen needing protection from school bullying. Each win felt like revenge against the firm that had tossed me aside. Josiah watched me change. He said I smiled more, even when I was exhausted. We started going out on real dates instead of hiding in the apartment. Hand in hand at a little Italian place in the village, no more checking over our shoulders. One night a former colleague from Caldwell spotted us. He stared, then looked away fast. The next day I got a text from an old law school buddy. Heard you're doing your own thing. Respect. It was tiny, but it mattered. My parents called from Ohio the week I took on my first paying client worth 5 figures. They still didn't know about Josiah. Mom asked when I was coming home for Thanksgiving. Dad asked if I had patched things up with the firm. I lied and said I was fine, that I was building something better. Hanging up felt like another small betrayal, but I was learning that every step forward meant leaving something behind. By the end of year one, my little office had 2 paralegals and a waiting list. Word spread in the community faster than any billboard. The gay lawyer who actually cares, they called me. I took on a high-profile case against a major corporation that had fired an entire department after a Pride Parade photo leaked. The settlement I negotiated was 7 figures. The check that cleared let me move the firm to a real space in Chelsea with actual windows. Josiah helped paint the walls that first weekend, music blasting, paint in his hair. We danced in the empty conference room like idiots, and for the first time since the rejection, I felt like I was building something that was truly mine. But success brought new pressure. An old Caldwell partner reached out, offering me consulting work on the side. I turned it down. Then the harassment started. Anonymous emails calling me a traitor, late-night calls breathing on the line. Josiah found one of the emails open on my laptop and read it before I could close the tab. That night we fought for the first time in months. He said I was pushing too hard, that I was trying to prove something to people who would never accept me. I yelled back that I was proving it to myself. We slept on opposite sides of the bed, the silence heavier than any argument. The next morning he left a note on the kitchen counter. I love you even when you're impossible. Let's talk tonight. I carried that note in my wallet for weeks. It reminded me that winning cases meant nothing if I lost the person who had stood by me when no one else would. The second year brought the case that changed everything. Harrington, the same family that had rejected me, now faced a massive environmental lawsuit from a coalition of activists. Their new counsel was floundering. My old firm was representing them again. When the activists approached me to lead their side, I almost said no. Josiah sat across from me at our tiny kitchen table and asked the question I had been avoiding. Are you doing this for justice or for payback? I told him both. He nodded, then added, just don't lose yourself in it. Preparing for that trial was brutal. Late nights, early mornings, Josiah bringing me dinner at the office and forcing me to eat. My parents finally visited New York that spring. I introduced Josiah as my partner. The silence that followed lasted 10 full seconds. Dad stared at his hands. Mom cried quietly. Then she hugged him. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning. The night they left, Josiah and I lay on the roof of our building watching the planes cross the sky. He said, "You're not the same man who got that rejection letter." Neither am I. The trial lasted 6 weeks. I cross-examined my former boss on the stand. I watched Richard Caldwell's face go pale when I produced the internal memo that proved the firm had known about my sexuality and still took the Harrington money anyway. The jury deliberated 2 days. When they came back with a verdict in our favor, $32 million, the courtroom erupted. Reporters swarmed. My phone lit up with offers from every major firm in the city. I turned them all down. The money changed things on paper. I could afford the brownstone in Park Slope Josiah had always joked about. We bought it. But the real change was quieter. I started mentoring young LGBTQ law students. I spoke at Pride events. I stopped checking my reflection to see if I looked straight enough. Josiah proposed on a random Tuesday in the kitchen while I was loading the dishwasher. He got down on one knee with a simple silver band and said, "Marry me so we can keep building this ridiculous life together." I said yes before he finished the sentence. My old firm tried one last move. They offered me partnership, name on the door, the works. I met Richard for coffee and told him no. He asked why. I looked him in the eye and said, "Because I don't want to hide anymore." He nodded like he finally understood. That conversation closed the last door on who I used to be. The wedding was small, backyard in the new house, fairy lights, and too many flowers. My parents came. Josiah's mom cried through the whole ceremony. When we danced our first dance to the song that had played the night we met, I realized the rejection letter had been the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop performing and start living. 3 years after that first rejection, I stood in a boardroom on Wall Street signing the biggest contract of my career. this time on my terms. A Fortune 500 company that wanted my firm specifically because of our reputation for integrity and for representing clients the old guard ignored. The lead partner shook my hand and said, "We researched you. We like what you stand for." I smiled and thought about the crumpled letter still tucked in a drawer at home as a reminder. Josiah waited for me outside, leaning against the car with 2 coffees. We drove home through the city I had once been so afraid of disappointing. That night we sat on the stoop of our brownstone, watching the sun set over the neighborhood kids playing stickball. He rested his head on my shoulder and said, "You did it." I corrected him. "We did it." Looking back, the pain of that day in Caldwell's office feels distant now, like a story about someone else. The secret that almost destroyed me became the foundation that made everything stronger. I still get the occasional hate message. I still have nights when the old fears creep in. But now I have a husband who reminds me every single day that being loved openly is worth every risk. And I have a career that lets me fight for people who feel the same fear I once did. The boy who hid his heart in conference rooms became the man who signs contracts with it on his sleeve. And that, more than any dollar amount, is the real victory. From Samuel's journey, I learned that the most painful rejections often point you toward your truest self. Don't let fear keep you in a cage someone else built. Love bravely, work honestly, and trust that the right doors will open when you stop knocking on the wrong ones. The world may not change overnight, but you can change your world, one honest choice at a time.